Hey, good morning. I hope you guys had a great weekend this weekend. I had some content up. You can see this article here. The gold bars keep popping up. They keep showing up, man. So yeah, thank you for joining me today. Whether it's the morning time. I'm running this live this morning. I'll do another one late night tonight. That'll be covering some politics. But yeah, so uh, for the one this morning, I'm going to cover what was written over the weekend. If you guys want to see what I wrote, please visit offramppolitics.com. For all my subscribers, thank you very much for the support. For those of you who are watching now and aren't subscribed, please hit the subscribe button. Please share and like. All of the support is appreciated and it is needed because this is needed content. Not only does America need to know what's going on, but the world needs to know what's going on over here because we are such a pivotal part of the geopolitical puzzle or jigsaw puzzle, right? And with with the American piece of the puzzle sort of teetering and falling off the board, it's causing chaos everywhere. It's causing a situation where our allies can't really depend upon us. They can't rely on us. It's causing our citizens to lose faith in the nation, in the system. Um, and it's a sad thing to see. But people like me at the off ramp here, um, it's our duty to cover this stuff. It's our duty to reveal the truth, because that's the only way we can move forward in a positive way. It's the only way we can take care of our families and our communities is if we know the truth. So I'm here to offer that. So like I said before, please, visit offramppolitics.com for the latest. And also, please, if you haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button. Like I said before, all of the support is appreciated. For all of my supporters up until now, you guys are a very unique group. You found me early on. Thank you so much for the support. You guys know what's up. I think the old saying, "Real, real recognizes real." Thank you for recognizing me as real. Thank you. It's a big deal because it's hard to find what's real in this world these days. So let's get down to the real. The article I wrote on offramppolitics.com titled "The Gold Bars Keep Showing Up" was an article to connect some dots. Okay, and the guy at the top of the pillar here, the emperor of all of this, is the second in command in the United States Department of Defense, Department of War, a man named Stephen Feinberg. He's a hedge fund guy, but he's a hedge fund guy that likes to own mercenary companies. He owned a very big company called DynCorp. They were responsible for security in Afghanistan and Iraq. They got in trouble for fraud in Iraq and had to settle some lawsuits. Um, Feinberg and his companies, they know how to push right up on that line, and sometimes they cross it. And that's what happens when you have someone aggressive. So, not here to smear Mr. Feinberg, not here to say that he's a bad guy or an evil guy. He's a guy that pushes hard, he fights hard, he's very aggressive. But sometimes in all that aggression, mistakes can happen. And one of the mistakes I believe have happened up under him is this former CIA officer named David Rush. You guys may have heard it in the news. He got in trouble for stealing $40 million worth of gold bars. He had a bunch of millions in cash. He had a bunch of fancy Rolex watches. He claimed that he was to the CIA. He claimed he needed all of that for a mission that he was on, which is proven to be false. That's why he's been indicted. Um, but it's interesting looking at him, okay, because who is David Rush and what part of the CIA was he a part of? Well, the New York Times came out with some reporting yesterday to dive a little deeper into who he is. And what they found was that he was a high level member of the CIA within their Directorate of Science and Technology. Now, that's a very pivotal part of the CIA, and we'll get into what that is. But before we do that, let's get a quick review of who Mr. Rush is. And we'll do that with some news reporting. So let's take a look. I'll share the screen with you guys.
300 gold bars worth more than $40 million and $2 million in cash. That is what the FBI says that it found in the Ashburn home of a former executive at the CIA. Thanks for joining us for News 4 at 4. I'm Erica Gonzalez. The man's name is David Rush. The FBI says that Rush also lied to the CIA about degrees that he had from 2 universities. News 4's Paul Wagner joins us live in Ashburn to talk us through these details that almost sound like a movie. Paul?
Hi there, Erica. This is David Rush's house here behind me in Ashburn Farm. And let me tell you what happened here about a week ago, Monday. It was the 18th. And according to a neighbor who spoke with News 4 off camera, he says he was awakened at about 6 o'clock in the morning by someone on a bullhorn shouting, "This is the FBI. We have a warrant for your arrest. Come out with your hands up." That man got out of bed. He looked outside. He saw a number of FBI agents, tactical gear, standing here on this street. He says the next thing he saw was David Rush, his neighbor, in handcuffs. He says the FBI was then inside this house all day long. David Rush is a former CIA senior officer with a top secret security clearance. According to a complaint filed in federal court, Rush made several requests for work-related expenses between November of 2025 and March of 2026. Those expenses, according to the complaint, included a large amount of cash and tens of millions of dollars in gold bars, which was given to Rush. But at some point, it's unclear when, a review of Rush's storage space at the agency only found a small portion of the cash he was given. According to the complaint, FBI agents searched his house. During the search, FBI agents seized approximately 303 gold bars. Based on the current price of gold, the estimated value of the gold exceeds $40 million. FBI agents also seized approximately $2 million in United States currency. The complaint says Rush applied 3 times to the CIA, twice in 2006 and again in 2009 when he was hired. The investigation has revealed that he never attended or obtained a degree from Clemson University. The investigation also revealed that Rush never attended or obtained degrees from RPI or Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute. According to court documents, Rush also told employees he was a pilot for the Navy. That was not true. The FAA saying it did not have a certificate or pilot's license registered to Rush. While News 4 was in the neighborhood, someone inside Rush's home called police complaining about the media. Most people we talked to declined to comment about Rush. None would go on camera. One couple told News 4 Rush's wife and children would take walks in the neighborhood, but they rarely saw David Rush. Now, that complaint filed in federal court also says that the FBI found 35 luxury watches inside this house. Those watches were mainly Rolex, is what the court document said. We did reach out to David Rush's attorney. She did respond. She said she had no comment. There was supposed to be a detention hearing for Mr. Rush tomorrow in federal court in Alexandria, but that's now been kicked until next week, June 5th. Erica?
Paul, lots of people are probably asking, how could something like this happen, right? So if the CIA is known for its intense screening process and their background checks, what are federal officials saying about how this could have happened?
You have the question of the day, Erica. Everyone's asking that. There's nothing in the court document saying how this may have happened, other than they're saying that he lied about his college degrees and that he lied about being a pilot. But if you go on the CIA's website, it talks about its stringent requirements to become an employee of the CIA. It says there are background checks, including interviews with family, friends, and neighbors, that there's a mandatory polygraph test, that there's physical and psychological testing. And it also says disqualifiers include lying. So that is your question and everybody else's today. And we just don't know the answer to that. We just know that, you watch all of these shows about the CIA and the FBI, and they talk about how tough it is to get a job in one of these agencies, right? And how did this happen? If what is in that document is true, that he did not have any of these degrees, and he was lying about his service.
Yeah. It's not every day that you hear about gold bars and 35 Rolexes. Paul Wagner live for us this afternoon. Paul.
Well, there you see it. And, I think the reporter asked a great question. How did this happen? And I believe in something called Occam's razor, which is the simplest answer is usually the correct one. It's not always the case, but usually the simplest answer is in the zone of reality. Okay. And in this case, what's the simplest answer? Well, he had someone very powerful make it so that he could get into the CIA. That's it. Mr. David Rush, who's clearly he's a criminally minded person, fraudulent from up and down. He's definitely a fraud. How did he get through the screening process to become a CIA agent? Well, clearly there are ways for that process to be circumvented. And the best way to do that is someone very high up would have to go and do that. Well, in this case, according to the New York Times, who has reported pretty well on this, and also NBC News, they said, look, it was Stephen Feinberg, the number 2 of the Department of Defense. That was his sort of mentor. That was his rabbi. That was the guy who gave him what he needed to be able to get into the CIA. And not only did he get into the CIA, but then he ended up holding a high position, a high powerful position within the Directorate of Science and Technology. So let's learn a little bit about the Directorate of Science and Technology. Let's take a look at what that's all about. Okay. You can just go on the Wikipedia page and you can see, right? So the Directorate of Science and Technology is the branch of the United States Central Intelligence Agency tasked with collecting and analyzing information through technological means and developing technical systems to advance the CIA's intelligence gathering, right? It was formed on December 31st, 1948. But let's look down at some of the examples of the kind of stuff that they do. So they create solutions to current technical problems using existing tools and designs. They research to find solutions to existing problems using theoretical analysis. They ensure current projects and intelligence officers are correctly managed through analysis. They conduct all source analysis to reduce the possibility of security faults, especially for on-ground intelligence officers. Now, isn't it interesting that the office responsible for conducting all source analysis to reduce the possibility of security faults, especially for on-ground intelligence officers, had a high-level fraud guy? How does that work? Let's look at some of their past projects. Project Bluebird, Artichoke, and MK Ultra. That's what this branch of the CIA is all about. This is the MK Ultra side. So the MK Ultra part of the CIA had a high-level official named David Rush, who's a total fraud. Just consider this for a second. And this fraud, who's in charge of the MK Ultra wing of the CIA, had $40 million in gold bars, $2 million in cash, 30 Rolex watches. Who knows what this man was doing? But we do know this. He was a part of the CIA that plays mind games, that does mental psyop wars on individuals, on communities. Think about that. A fraudster was put up in a high level with absolutely no vetting to be in charge of the part of the CIA that plays mind games on large scales. What's going on here? So let me give you an idea of what MK Ultra is all about. All right. This is from the BBC. Gotta watch a commercial.
going to explore legal frameworks.
I was given a glass of Kool-Aid, and so were the other children. This Kool-Aid was spiked with LSD. It was horrible.
In the early days of the Cold War, the CIA ordered the creation of a secret program intended to find ways of mind control. They funded an army of psychiatric institutions across the United States and Canada to perform experiments on unsuspecting patients using psychedelic drugs, sensory deprivation, electroshock treatment, and more. The program was known by its codename, MKUltra. At the end of the Korean War, a number of freed American POWs came home seemingly brainwashed and espousing communist propaganda. American officials suspected that the soldiers had been subjected to what they thought were new communist mind control techniques. Alarmed by the situation, the newly formed CIA allocated $25 million for psychiatric experiments on human beings.
It was the most secret program ever conducted by the CIA in the United States. Patients at psychiatric hospitals, prisoners in federal institutions, and even people in the public were given drugs without their awareness or consent and experimented upon.
Initial projects within MKUltra included Operation Midnight Climax.
They established what were called safe houses, where prostitutes would lure men to these apartments. And then once the men were in the apartments, they were dosed with LSD. And then they were basically studied by CIA scientists, usually behind a two-way mirror.
Another common practice was the hosting and observing of LSD-induced parties with live music. These parties were called acid tests, and the culture that grew out of them played a key role in the development of the hippie and psychedelic movements a few years later. However, some of the most damaging experiments occurred at the Allen Memorial Institute in Montreal, Canada. There, under the direction of infamous Scottish-American psychiatrist Dr. Ewan Cameron, unsuspecting patients, many of whom had common ailments such as postpartum depression, were experimented on with aggressive drug cocktails and extreme techniques.
My father was a victim of Dr. Cameron. He was a 27-year-old, healthy skier, canoeer, very athletic, and he had asthma. They told him if he went to the Allen Memorial, they could cure his asthma.
My father, Charles, was a patient of Dr. Cameron's. He had a trigeminal neuralgia, it's called, where there's a pain in the temple that radiates into the jaw that apparently is excruciatingly painful. They told him that it was psychosomatic, which it's not, but in those days, what did they know? So they sent him to a shrink. This shrink that he went to was working with Cameron, although we didn't know. So he put my father right into the program.
I was having trouble with my parents. My father and my stepmother decided to put me in the Allen Memorial Institute. They had no idea what went on in there. I was 16 when I was there.
Dr. Cameron pursued a concept he called depatterning, which was meant to reduce patients to an infantile psychological state wherein doctors could take advantage of the person's cognitive vulnerability to attempt to rebuild their mind under the doctor's control. A popular method of choice to achieve this was called psychic driving.
The day that my father was brought to the hospital, they immediately put him on insulin to put him into like an insulin coma. They took clips from the interview with the shrink and put it on tape to run a loop under his pillow while he was put into the sleep treatment.
He also was put in an insulin coma for 36 days with a recording beside him saying that your mother hates you over and over and over and over and over.
That was beside my bed constantly, repeated 250,000 and 500,000 times.
Another common method was the use of extreme Page Russell electroshock therapy.
Page Russell shock treatment is approximately 40 to 75 times the strength of a normal shock treatment. So it's really designed to wipe out the memory.
He received 54 high voltage shock treatments, followed by 54 grand mal seizures.
After 27 days of this, they said that They were discouraged because he still had ties to his former life, in that he was asking to see his wife. They decided to give him more Page Russell shock treatments and put him to sleep for another 30 days.
When patients were released from the Allen Memorial, they and their families' lives would never be the same again.
Well, there's a lot I could not remember after I got out of the Allen. When my family came, I was a zombie. I didn't even know who they were.
He never came out the same. He had a blank look in his eye. He didn't know who we were. He didn't know we were his daughters. He lost his job. We went into poverty after he came out.
He had said in his interview with the shrink that I was the apple of his eye. And after he came home, he started beating me not long after.
In 1973, the MKUltra program was terminated, and some of the evidence of its activities was systematically erased.
The whole thing was basically discovered because of a whistleblower named John Marks, who wrote the first book really about the program called The Search for the Manchurian Candidate. There were congressional hearings here in the United States in the mid-70s after it had been exposed. And during those hearings, the CIA finally admitted that this program existed. They admitted that it was probably not the right thing to do, but they feigned innocence.
Despite the congressional hearings and marginal interest in the subject in popular culture, most MKUltra survivors suffered in silence, taking their trauma with them to the grave. Today, having received no formal apology or compensation, the children of some survivors are pursuing a class action lawsuit against the institutions they deem responsible.
The CIA knew that it was breaking, every moral, ethical, and legal law in the books to do these experiments.
They all were behind it. They all knew what they were doing, but they weren't doing it out of care or love. They were doing it out of military and political reasons.
I am on medication now because of what happened to me when I was 16. I have not had any compensation or apology. I want everyone to know in Canada what went on in that horrible, horrible hospital.
While historians and survivors have exposed MKUltra's exploits to the world, much remains unknown about its extent and wider impact. Given the highly sensitive nature of the program's activity, it is likely this will remain the case for years to come.
So there you have it. So David Rush was a high-level official in the Directorate of Science and Technology, the wing of the CIA that does stuff like MKUltra. This is serious. Okay, this is very serious. This is more than just about gold bars and cash and everything else. This is a powerful man in a powerful position within a branch of our government that does things like MKUltra. And God knows what they're doing today. Who knows what they're doing today? But we do know that that wing of the CIA has fraudsters running programs of mind control for them. Think about that for a second. Think about what's got to be happening within the CIA today. Think about what's happening in government today. If nothing's happening, then what that says is they're all criminals. What that says is they're totally out of control. America has really fallen. So this is a serious deal. And if there isn't serious fallout, and if there isn't congressional oversight, investigations on this, then that's confirmation that this government is no longer a government. It's confirmation that our CIA is totally corrupted from top to bottom, allowing fraudsters to get in there with no credentials whatsoever, skip the vetting process, run around stealing cash and gold bars while operating mind control programs that ruin people's lives, that go after innocent people. This is serious. So let's take a look at the Directorate of Science and Technology. Let's look at what they put on the front page of who they are, right? Let's take a look. They're nice guys. They're there, you know, you got the black guy. They make sure there's a black guy in every clip. You know, they're definitely diverse. You know, they got the young black guys. They've got the cute women. They've got the cool white guy. You know, they just help develop strategies to help us stay safe here in America. While in real life, they've got David Rush running around with stolen gold bars, $40 million worth, a bunch of Rolex watches and cash. Think about what he was doing. That man must have been doing something horrifying. Horrifying. But they tell the public they're just the nice guys coming up with smart, cool gadgets and solutions for intelligence gathering. I mean, my God, it's kind of scary what's going on here. All right. So let's focus in more on Steven Feinberg. Like I said, he's number 2 at the Department of Defense, the Department of War now is what they call it. Like I said before, he was the hedge fund guy for Cerberus Capital. He owned DynCorp, which was a military, private contractor providing security in Afghanistan and Iraq. Got in trouble for fraud stuff that they had to settle. Very powerful man. Okay, he's the one, according to the New York Times and NBC News, who got David Rush into this position. That's who did it, according to them. So I'm pretty sure a big investigation needs to go on now to figure out why Steven Feinberg did this, why he allowed a fraudster to skip the entire process to be put in a high-level position of the CIA in charge of MK Ultra. What's going on? What's going on? So Steven Feinberg has a history here, okay? He had a company called Tier 1 Group out of Arkansas that trained a group of Saudi nationals. And these Saudi nationals that they trained went out and murdered a Washington Post journalist named Jamal Khashoggi. All right. If you go to offramppolitics.com, my article, I cover this. I have the links where you can see where this was reported on. So Mr. Feinberg is an active guy. His companies are out here training people to murder journalists, which they did. And that murder of a journalist led to more gold bars with the government official. And in this case, it was Senator Bob Menendez. Okay. So if you go back in time, you'll be able to see that this journalist for the Washington Post named Jamal Khashoggi was murdered by a group of assassins, Saudi nationals, and he was killed inside the Saudi embassy in Turkey. His body was dismembered, and he's never been seen again. They haven't found a single hair follicle of this man. Okay. After the murder happened, Senator Bob Menendez was the first out publicly to blame the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia. That's who he blamed. Even though the people that did the murder were trained by Steven Feinberg's company. Even though the Egyptian government, which allowed these murderers to train in Egypt and get the murder weapon, which was a drug, they drugged the man to get the drug from Egypt before they went and murdered him, even though Bob helped the Egyptians cover up their role. That's what he's in jail for now, for acting as a foreign agent for Egypt. And part of what he did was cover up Egypt's role in murdering the journalist Jamal Khashoggi. So here we have Senator Bob Menendez. I'm going to say it again. He used his position as chairman of Foreign Relations Committee to act as a foreign agent for Egypt to cover up the murder of a journalist. Okay? The people who were the actual murderers were trained by Steven Feinberg's company. And what did Bob get for doing that? Gold bars and cash. Does this ring a bell? So here we have another connection to Steven Feinberg, Senator Bob Menendez with gold bars and cash. And you have another guy, high-level CIA agent, David Rush, gold bars and cash. Are we seeing a pattern here? I think so. So let's look at what Bob Menendez did. once Jamal Khashoggi was murdered. Let's look at what he did to throw authorities off, to throw the public off, to blame it all on the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia. Take a look.
CIA Director Gina Haspel has just finished briefing a small group of senators behind closed doors about the CIA's assessment that the Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman likely did order the death of Washington Post columnist Jamal Khashoggi. Senators in both parties were furious last week when the CIA leader ignored their demand to brief them on the murder evidence. The White House sent the Secretaries of State and Defense instead, who both denied that there was any proof linking Saudi Arabia's Crown Prince to the gruesome killing. A misleading statement by most experts. Joining me now, Senator Bob Menendez, the top Democrat on the Foreign Relations Committee, who has just come out of that Haspel briefing. Senator, I know you can't discuss intelligence, so I'm not going to ask you that, but are you now more persuaded than you were before going in that steps have to be taken against the Saudis?
Andrea, before this briefing, I was convinced that we had to take steps on the war in Yemen, and I believe we had to take steps on the Saudis. And I am only solidified in that view after this briefing. And it is my hope that the Senate will act and send a strong and unequivocal message that such actions in both cases cannot stand. And I hope that my legislation with Senator Graham, I believe, is the appropriate response. The Saudi Arabia Accountability and Yemen Act that would create a mandatory global Magnitsky for violations of human rights, and also sanctions on those who are continuing to deny humanitarian relief into Yemen and those who would support the Houthis. Those are some examples of a really strong response I think undoubtedly needs to take place.
Let me ask you about some things that both Secretaries Pompeo and Mattis said last week when they came out of the briefing to all of the senators. Secretary Pompeo said that there was no direct connection, no evidence linking them. I'm paraphrasing now, but Secretary Mattis said there was no smoking gun. That seemed to indicate that they were trying to dissuade the public from believing that the CIA assessment was as has been reported. It seemed to be an artful kind of spin, because the CIA never has, quote, a smoking gun or direct evidence. That's not what they do. Do I have that right?
Well, let me just say that what both Secretary Pompeo and Mattis did was, I think, a disservice to the Senate. I understand what they're driving at. They're trying to preserve a relationship with Saudi Arabia, a relationship that I think will be preserved regardless, because there's critical needs of Saudi Arabia as it relates to U.S. defense of the kingdom and in our mutual interest in the region. So that should not have us ultimately not act decisively and forcefully, particularly in the death of Jamal Khashoggi, a United States permanent resident, a journalist, because otherwise not only will it send the wrong message to the Crown Prince, but it will also send a global message that you can act with impunity and ultimately have no consequence. That is a dangerous message for the United States to send.
Now, there are reports that just now Senator Corker said that there's no question whatever that he, the Crown Prince, murdered him, Khashoggi. Is that your takeaway also?
Well, that was my view before this briefing, and it is certainly my view now.
And there's also a quotation here from Lindsey Graham, from our colleagues over across the way at the Hill. I went into the briefing believing that it was next to impossible that this was carried without the Crown Prince's knowledge, and I left the briefing with the same opinion. So you agree with that as well?
I do.
Are you satisfied with the CIA's efforts in all of this? There are reports that there were intercepts implicating the Crown Prince in advanced knowledge of and direction to Qahtani, his close aide.
Well, I can't speak to that. I'll just simply say that I believe that the briefing that the chairs and ranking members of the National Security Committee got should be a briefing that every senator should get. I argued for that before this. I still believe every senator should get it. I think it will be crystal clear in their mind about what happened here. As it relates to the CIA's role, both before and after, that's something that we're going to be continuing to look at.
And is the CIA doing a good job on this?
Let me just say that as it relates to the briefing, I was satisfied with the briefing. I thought it was an honest briefing. As it relates to your broader question, that's still an open question for me.
Senator Menendez, thank you very much.
Well, there you have it. Okay, so Stephen Feinberg's company, Tier 1, trains the Saudi assassins to murder Jamal Khashoggi. The Egyptian government provides the murder weapon to the Stephen Feinberg trained Saudi assassins to murder Jamal Khashoggi. And Bob Menendez gets on TV with Andrea Mitchell to say the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia did it. This is a scandal. It's an utter scandal. And here's why. While Bob Menendez was on TV with Andrea Mitchell pushing this lie that the Saudi Crown Prince murdered Jamal Khashoggi, look at what he was doing.
New information about those gold bars prosecutors say were used to bribe New Jersey Senator Robert Menendez.
Documents uncovered by the I-Team show those same gold bars once belonged to a businessman accused of paying the bribes.
Chief investigative reporter Jonathan Deans is here now with the exclusive details. John?
Natalie, Senator Menendez has never explained how he got his gold bars, but News 4 has learned serial numbers engraved on Menendez's gold bars match the serial numbers on gold bars once owned by that businessman. How do we know they match? Because years ago, that businessman reported those gold bars stolen, and he had New Jersey police get them back. This was the scene of the crime, an Edgewater, New Jersey penthouse, November 2013. 22 gold bars stolen from this man, millionaire developer Fred Davies. At gunpoint, Davies was tied to a chair by a gang of 4. They stole 176 items in all, including $500,000 in cash and those gold bars. The suspects were caught that night. Davies later seen in court watching the robbers plead guilty. To get his valuables back, Davies had to certify each item was his, including every one of those gold bars. Each gold bar has its own serial number, Davies explained to the Bergen County Prosecutor's Office. They're all stamped. You'll never see 2 stamped the same way. A decade later, 4 of those gold bars with those unique serial numbers were allegedly found by the FBI in the Clifton home of Senator Menendez and his wife, Nadine.
Together are worth approximately $150,000.
U.S. Attorney Damian Williams showed images of some of the gold bars he said were part of hundreds of thousands in bribes paid to the senator and his wife by Davies and 2 other New Jersey businessmen. The bank stamps and serial numbers on those gold bars plain for the world to see. News 4 has now obtained police stolen property logs from the Davies armed robbery case a decade ago. It was on December 13th, 2013, that Davies' signature and initials appear on the property release form. And 4 of the gold bars Davies certified as stolen and then returned to him appear to be an exact match to images of 4 gold bars included in the bribery indictment.
All of this spells bad news for Senator Menendez because the chain of custody, it appears, is going to be really easy to prove up.
NBC legal analyst Danny Savalos says showing gold bars were given to Robert and Nadine Menendez alone does not prove the crime of bribery.
Was there a quid pro quo? Was it in exchange for the senator's official acts or promises of the same?
The FBI says the quid pro quo between Senator Menendez and Davies went like this. In exchange for cash and gold bars, Senator Menendez would try to use his position to help Davies get favorable treatment from the New Jersey U.S. Attorney's Office, which in 2018 was investigating Davies for bank fraud. Senator Menendez has repeatedly denied any wrongdoing.
The allegations leveled against me are just that, allegations.
The New Jersey Democrat denies he took cash from Davies, even though prosecutors say testing shows Davies' fingerprints and DNA were on tens of thousands in cash found in the senator's home.
For 30 years, I have withdrawn thousands of dollars in cash from my personal savings account, which I have kept for emergencies and because of the history of my family facing confiscation in Cuba.
When asked about the gold bars, their serial numbers, and the apparent direct ties to Davies, a lawyer for Menendez said the senator will not be commenting on anonymous media leaks designed to prejudice his right to a fair trial. He looks forward to addressing the government's claims in court based on a complete record of the evidence. In a statement, a lawyer for businessman Fred Davies would not comment about the gold bars, but he said Mr. Davies will be exonerated when all the evidence is heard. Chuck, Natalie?
Well, we know how that went. Bob Menendez is in prison right now. He was found guilty on all charges, 16 counts. Now, that was the part where that was the rigging of the Justice Department. But the part that we're focusing in on today, which I wrote an op-ed in the New York Post on back in last year, and you can see that link in the offramppolitics.com, where I showed that the other part of the payments he was getting in gold bars came because of the work he did for the Egyptian government to cover up the murder of Jamal Khashoggi. And part of that cover up was to go out there and blame the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia for the murder when he knew damn well it wasn't the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia. He knew that those guys, the Saudis who murdered Jamal Khashoggi, were trained by an American company owned by Stephen Feinberg, who is now the #2 at the Department of Defense. The same Stephen Feinberg who was the mentor to David Rush, who's now been arrested for stealing $40 million in gold bars, $2 million in cash, 30 or 40 Rolex watches. What's going on here? What's going on here? Yeah, things are starting to get real saucy now. We're starting to see what's really behind the mask. All right. Like I said before, I'm not accusing anyone of a crime. It's definitely not Stephen Feinberg. He's so powerful, he'll wipe me off the face of this earth. So I'm not accusing him of anything. But what I am saying is America has fallen if we haven't gotten to where we can investigate a man like him to figure out what the hell he's doing. Because this is serious business. Bob Menendez, while being bribed for this, was trying to put a total weapons ban on the nation of Saudi Arabia. What the hell was that about? Like I said before, Stephen Feinberg is a guy who is a military contractor, company owner, big ones, DynCorp. Think about whose interests would be involved if Saudi Arabia had a total weapons ban put on them. Who would that benefit? Bob's sitting in jail right now, but I don't know. I think some new charges need to be brought up on him. How dare he try to pin a murder on another world leader and then use that fraudulent charge from his position of chairman of foreign relations to then put a total weapons ban on that nation? What the hell was he thinking? What the hell are we thinking for not having gone after him for this? What the hell are we thinking for not investigating Stephen Feinberg? What's going on? What's going on? So yeah, this is just the beginning, folks. But America has fallen if we can't go and investigate these people for what they're doing. Reckless. Reckless. This is out of control. Totally. With that said, guys, real recognizes real. Thank you, my supporters, for supporting. please subscribe if you haven't already. For those of you just coming on and finding me, hit that subscribe button. I will have more content like this. We're riding this pony. We're not letting this go. We're riding this all the way through. To hell with that. And trust me when I tell you, I have been subjected to a lot of pressure on this for some years now. That's how I know a lot about this. But that's fine. I can hold my own. I can. And I will. And I will continue. But your support is appreciated. So please subscribe, share, and like. Tell 3 of your friends to subscribe. The more support I can get, the more truth can come out. We need this truth. We need to put the pressure on this government to do what's right. Because as you can see, they're totally out of control. They're rigging up murders on world leaders who did nothing wrong. They're playing games by putting weapons bans on nations. What the hell is going on? We need to put the pressure on them. I'm putting that pressure. Please support my work. And the way you do it is, you don't have to send me money. Just hit the subscribe button, guys. Just hit the subscribe button. For all of you who have done that already, thank you very much. This is the Off Ramp. I am Thomas Jason Anderson. And please check out offramppolitics.com for my written pieces as well. I'll be back on later, guys. Thank you so much. I'll talk to you later. Love you all.